Have you ever gotten a phone call in the middle of the night that you wish you hadn't answered? Most of us ignore unknown numbers at 3 a.m., right? We let them go to voicemail, roll over, and go back to sleep. But what if the number calling isn't unknown? What if it's a number you recognize? A number that's been disconnected for 6 months. A number that belonged to someone you loved. Someone who's gone. This is my true personal experience, shared for entertainment and discussion purposes. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened on March 17, 2024, at 3:07 a.m. when my dead grandmother called my cell phone. And why answering that call changed everything. If you've ever experienced contact from someone who's passed away, keep watching. You're not alone. My name is Jordan. I'm 28 years old, and I live in Portland, Oregon. I work as a software developer, and I'm generally a skeptical person. I believe in data, logic, and things I can prove. I'm not religious. I don't believe in an afterlife. Or at least, I didn't. My grandmother, Helen, raised me. My parents died in a car accident when I was 3 years old. I have no memory of them. My grandmother was my mother, my father, my entire world. She lived in a small house in Eugene, about 2 hours south of Portland. I visited her every other weekend without fail. Grandma Helen was 84 when she passed away on September 3, 2023. She had lung cancer. We knew it was coming. I was with her at the end, holding her hand in the hospice room. Her last words to me were, "I'll always watch over you, Jordan. Always." I nodded, unable to speak through the tears. She squeezed my hand once, smiled, and then she was gone. The funeral was small. She didn't have many friends left. Most had passed before her. It was me, a few distant cousins I barely knew, and her longtime neighbor, Mrs. Chen. We buried her on September 8, 2023, next to my grandfather who had died 15 years earlier. After the funeral, I had to deal with her estate. The house, her belongings, her phone account. I kept her cell phone active for about a month after she died because I couldn't bring myself to cancel it. I would call her number sometimes, late at night, just to hear her voicemail message. "You've reached Helen. Leave a message and I'll call you back when I can." Her voice, preserved in digital form. Finally, in early October, I forced myself to cancel her phone line. It felt like severing the last connection I had to her. The phone company said the number would be recycled and reassigned to someone else eventually. I deleted her contact from my phone. I couldn't bear to see Grandma Helen in my contacts knowing I'd never call it again. The months after her death were hard. I threw myself into work. I stopped visiting Eugene. I barely left my apartment except for work. My friends tried to reach out, but I pushed them away. I was drowning in grief and I didn't know how to ask for help. By March 2024, 6 months after her death, I was doing slightly better. I'd started therapy. I was sleeping more regularly. I'd even started responding to my friends' messages. I was learning to live with the grief instead of being consumed by it. March 17, 2024 was a Sunday night. I had work the next morning, so I went to bed around 11 p.m. I remember falling asleep quickly, exhausted from a weekend spent cleaning my apartment and doing laundry. And then at 3:07 a.m., my phone rang. The ringtone jolted me awake. My phone was on my nightstand, screen glowing in the dark room. I reached for it instinctively, my brain still foggy from sleep. The number on the screen made my heart stop. It was my grandmother's number. The number I'd canceled 5 months ago. The number that should no longer exist. I stared at the screen, convinced I was still dreaming. This had to be a dream. Phone numbers don't just uncancel themselves. Dead people don't call you. The phone kept ringing. I watched it, paralyzed as the screen lit up my dark bedroom. The caller ID said, unknown, but the number beneath it was unmistakable. I'd called that number 1,000 times. I knew it by heart. On the 6th ring, something in me snapped awake. I grabbed the phone and answered. "Hello." Silence. No, not quite silence. I could hear something. Breathing? Static? A faint hissing sound like an old radio between stations. "Hello." I said again, louder this time. "Grandma." The static shifted, changed pitch. And then I heard it. Faint, buried under layers of interference. but unmistakable. Jordan. It was her voice. My grandmother's voice. Thin, distant, like she was calling from very far away, but it was her. Grandma? My voice cracked. Is that you? Jordan. The static grew louder, nearly drowning her out. Need to tell you? Grandma, I can barely hear you. What do you need to tell me? Not safe. The static surged, and I had to pull the phone away from my ear. When I brought it back, her voice was clearer for a moment. The box, under the "Don't let them." What box? Grandma, what are you talking about? More static. Then, I love you, Jordan. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Grandma, wait. The line went dead. Not disconnected, just silent. I looked at my phone screen. The call timer showed 1:47. Nearly 2 minutes. 2 minutes of me talking to my dead grandmother's voice. I sat in my bed, shaking, staring at my phone. My rational mind was screaming at me. This was a prank. Someone had spoofed her number. Some sick person had found out about my grandmother's death and was messing with me. But that voice. I would know her voice anywhere. And what she said? The box under the "Don't let them." What did that mean? I couldn't go back to sleep. I sat up the rest of the night, Googling things like, "Can dead people call you?" and phone calls from deceased relatives. I found hundreds of stories similar to mine. People getting calls from dead family members, always at night, always brief, always cryptic messages. Most of the articles dismissed these as hoaxes or misidentified calls. But some sources, paranormal websites and forums, treated them seriously. They called them crisis calls or farewell calls. Messages from the dead trying to communicate something urgent. When the sun came up, I convinced myself it had been a vivid dream. Grief does strange things to the mind. I'd probably dreamed the whole thing. Except when I checked my phone's call history, the call was there. March 17th, 3:07 a.m. Duration, 1:47. Number, my grandmother's old number. I took a screenshot. I needed proof this had really happened. I went to work in a daze. I couldn't focus. I kept looking at my phone, half expecting it to ring again. At lunch, I called my therapist and left a message asking for an emergency session. This wasn't normal grief. This was something else. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, phone on my nightstand, watching the clock. 2 a.m. 2:30 a.m. 3 a.m. At 3:07 a.m. exactly, my phone rang again. Same number. Same impossible, disconnected number. This time I answered immediately. Grandma? Jordan. Her voice was clearer now, less static. You need to listen to me. There isn't much time. Time for what? Grandma, where are you? What's happening? I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. In the house, in my bedroom, there's a shoebox under the floorboards beneath my bed. You need to find it. You need to destroy everything in it. Don't read them. Don't look at them. Just burn them. What are you talking about? What's in the box? Letters. Old letters. They can't find them, Jordan. If they find them, they'll know. They'll come for you. Who? Who will come for me? The static returned, washing over her voice. Didn't know what I was doing, thought it was harmless, but they're real, Jordan. They're real and they don't forgive. Grandma, you're not making sense. The box. Promise me. Promise me you'll destroy it. I promise, but I love you. I'm sorry for what I've done. I'm sorry for what I've brought into our family. Grandma, wait. The line went dead again. I looked at my call history. 3:07 a.m. Duration, 2:13. This wasn't a dream. This was real. Whatever this was, it was real. I called in sick to work the next morning. I threw some clothes in a bag and drove to Eugene. 2 hours of highway driving, my mind racing the entire time. What had my grandmother been involved in? Letters? What kind of letters could be so dangerous that she was calling me from beyond the grave to warn me about them? I still had a key to her house. It had been sitting empty for 6 months. I'd been meaning to put it on the market but couldn't bring myself to do it. Now I was glad I'd waited. The house looked exactly as I'd left it after the funeral. Dusty, cold, frozen in time. I walked through rooms filled with her furniture, her books, her life. Every object a memory. I went to her bedroom. The bed was still made with the same floral quilt she'd had for decades. I knelt beside it and looked underneath. Just dust and the hardwood floor. But she'd said floorboards. Under the floorboards. I pushed the bed aside with some effort. The floor beneath was standard hardwood, except for one section near the wall that looked slightly different. The planks there were cleaner, less worn, as if they'd been lifted and replaced more recently. I used a flathead screwdriver from her garage to pry up the planks. Beneath them, in a shallow space above the joists, was a shoebox. Old, battered, held together with yellowed tape. My hands shook as I lifted it out. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. Handwritten on old, yellowed paper. The handwriting was my grandmother's. I'd seen it on birthday cards my whole life. But these weren't letters to anyone I knew. They weren't addressed to my grandfather or to old friends. They were addressed to the operator. The tall one. The watcher in the trees. And they weren't really letters. They were more like offerings? Prayers? Each one detailed something my grandmother had given up or sacrificed. Not physical objects, but things like my memory of my wedding day, or my ability to feel joy, or my daughter's protection. My daughter. My mother. I felt cold. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the papers. The dates on the letters started in 1995, 2 years before my parents' car accident. The last letter was dated September 2nd, 2023, the day before my grandmother died. It read, "I offer my final breath in exchange for Jordan's protection. Let my death close this contract. Let me take the debt with me. Leave my grandchild in peace." I dropped the letters like they'd burned me. 13 to 1700 hours. I sat on my grandmother's bedroom floor, surrounded by these impossible letters, my mind trying to process what I was reading. My grandmother had been making deals with something. Some entity she called by different names. And she'd been offering it pieces of her life, her memories, her feelings. And at some point, she'd offered it my daughter's protection. 2 years later, my parents died in a car accident. An accident the police report said was strange. My father, an experienced driver, had swerved off a completely straight road on a clear day for no apparent reason. There were no other cars, no animals, nothing to explain why he'd lost control. Had my grandmother's deal caused that accident? Had she traded her daughter, my mother, to this thing? And now, in her final days, had she tried to undo it? To offer herself in exchange for protecting me? I needed to burn these letters. She'd been clear about that. Don't read them. Don't look at them. Just destroy them. But I'd already read them. I'd already seen them. I gathered the letters back into the shoebox. My plan was to take them to the backyard fire pit and burn them all. But as I stood up, I heard it. A ringtone. Coming from somewhere in the house. Not my phone. An older ringtone. One I recognized. It was coming from my grandmother's bedroom dresser. I opened the top drawer and there it was, her old cell phone. The one I'd turned into the phone company when I canceled her line. They must have forgotten to collect it, or I'd forgotten to give it to them. The phone was dead. It hadn't been charged in 6 months. The screen was black. But it was ringing, vibrating in my hand. The old mechanical ringtone playing impossibly from its speaker. I stared at it, and as I watched, the screen flickered to life. No battery icon. No service bars. Just a phone call screen. Incoming call, unknown. Time, 3:07 p.m. It was daytime, but still 3:07. The same time as the middle of the night calls. My hand moved on its own. I answered. Hello. Jordan. Not my grandmother's voice this time. Something else. Something that made my skin crawl. You've read the letters. Who is this? You know who I am. Your grandmother knew me by many names. She made promises to me. She broke those promises. I don't understand. What do you want? She offered you to me, Jordan. Your protection, your life, your future. All of it, in exchange for power, for knowledge, for the ability to reach beyond the veil of death. And then, at the end, she tried to take it back. She tried to cheat me. She didn't know what she was doing. She was sick, she was dying. She knew exactly what she was doing. For 28 years, she knew. And now you know too. What do you want from me? Your grandmother's bargain is incomplete. She died before fulfilling it. The debt passes to blood. To you. No. I don't accept that. I don't accept any of this. You don't have to accept it. It simply is. Unless. Unless what? Burn the letters, as she asked. Burn them in a fire at midnight. Say her name 3 times as they burn. Give her spirit peace, release her from the contract. But know this, when you release her, you take her place. The debt becomes yours. All of it. And if I don't? If I refuse? Then I take what I'm owed. From you. From everyone you love. From everyone you will ever love. I am patient. I am eternal. And I always collect. The phone went dead. The screen went black. The battery was still completely dead. I stood there, holding 2 phones, mine and my grandmother's impossible, dead phone that had just received a call from something that wasn't human. I had a choice. Burn the letters and somehow bind myself to my grandmother's contract. Or refuse and spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, wondering when this thing would come to collect. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory, I love you. I'm sorry for what I've done. I'm sorry for what I've brought into our family. She tried to protect me. Even in death, she was still trying to protect me by calling and warning me about the letters. But what if there was a third option? I gathered up all the letters and took them to the backyard. I started a fire in the old pit, the same one where my grandmother and I used to roast marshmallows when I was a kid. But I didn't wait until midnight. And I didn't say her name 3 times. Instead, as the letters burned, I said, I reject this contract. I reject this deal. These weren't my promises. This isn't my debt. I returned to sender. I closed the door. I severed the tie. I said it over and over as the letters burned to ash. I felt ridiculous, like I was performing some bad movie ritual. But what else could I do? When the last letter had burned to nothing, I took the ashes and scattered them in the wind. Then I went back inside and found my grandmother's Bible. She'd been Catholic, though not particularly devout. I brought it outside and set it by the fire pit. I didn't know if this was the right thing to do, if it meant anything, but it felt important. I spent the night in her house. Not sleeping, just waiting. Waiting to see if something would happen. If the thing on the phone would come for me. Nothing did. At 3:07 a.m., both my phone and my grandmother's phone rang simultaneously. I answered mine. Silence. Static. Then, very faintly, my grandmother's voice. Thank you, Jordan. You're free. I'm free. We're both free. Grandma? Is that really you? For now. I don't have long. The door is closing. I wanted to tell you. I'm sorry. I was scared and I made terrible choices. I thought I was protecting us. I thought I was protecting you. But I was wrong. It's okay, Grandma. It's over now. Is it? Jordan, be careful. What I did, the things I called to, they don't forgive easily. They don't forget. Watch for signs. If you see static on screens that shouldn't have it. If you hear whispers in empty rooms. If you get calls at 3:07, I'll be careful. I promise. I love you. So much. More than I could ever say. I love you too, Grandma. The line went quiet and this time, I knew she was really gone. That was 2 months ago. I sold my grandmother's house in April. I couldn't keep it, not after everything that happened there. The new owners are a young couple with a baby. I hope they're happy there. I hope the house brings them nothing but good memories. I kept my grandmother's phone. I know I shouldn't have, but I did. I keep it in a drawer in my apartment, turned off, uncharged. Sometimes I take it out and look at it, remembering those impossible calls. I haven't gotten any more calls at 3:07 a.m. Not from my grandmother's number or any other number. My phone stays silent through the night. But I do see things sometimes. Static on my laptop screen when there shouldn't be any. A flicker on my TV when it's turned off. Once, I thought I saw movement in my peripheral vision, something tall and thin, but when I turned to look, nothing was there. I don't know if I really broke the contract. I don't know if my grandmother is at peace. I don't know if the thing she made deals with is truly gone or just waiting. What I do know is that my grandmother loved me enough to try to protect me, even after death. She called me from wherever she was to warn me. That means something. Love means something even beyond death. I go to therapy regularly now. I've told my therapist a version of this story, not the full truth, but enough. She thinks I'm processing grief through vivid dreams and coincidences. Maybe she's right. Maybe that's all this was. But I have the screenshot of that first call on my phone. March 17th, 3:07 a.m. My grandmother's number. Duration, 1:47. And late at night, when I'm alone, I sometimes think I hear my phone vibrating. Not ringing, just vibrating. Like someone's calling but not quite making the connection. Like someone's trying to reach through from the other side but can't quite make it. I never check. I let it go to voicemail. Because I'm afraid of what I might hear if I answer. That's my story. That's what happened when my dead grandmother called my cell phone at 3 a.m. and I answered. I don't know if there's a lesson here. Maybe it's don't answer your phone at 3 a.m. Maybe it's be careful what deals your loved ones make without your knowledge. Maybe it's that love transcends death, even if it's complicated and messy and sometimes scary. If you've ever gotten a phone call from someone who's passed away, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I know I'm not the only one this has happened to. The internet is full of stories like mine. Thank you for listening. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I share true paranormal experiences every day. Stories from people who've encountered things they can't explain. And if your phone rings at 3:07 a.m., maybe think twice before answering. Until next time, stay safe out there.